Go, go!
Land Force Western Area stretches from Ontario's Lakehead to the Pacific Ocean. The headquarters for LFWA is located in Edmonton, Alberta, and its major elements include 1st Canadian Mechanized Brigade Group, 4 districts, 1 per province, 5 bases, and 3 training establishments. It is a relatively new organization that was formed as part of the restructuring of Canada's Army. Major General Tom DeFay explains LFWA's roles and responsibilities.
My roles and responsibilities are simply to assume command of regular and reserve Army elements in the 4 western provinces of Canada and maintain operational readiness in order to fulfill any tasks that are assigned to me by the Commander Land Force Command. The new organization for the Army, although the implementation of this process has only been taking place for very few years, has its origins post-unification, when it was determined that the Army had suffered some organizational weaknesses as a result of its new posture. The main problem was that under the previous organizational model, the commander of the then Mobile Command had to deal with some 26 different agencies spread from sea to sea in Canada. This, of course, was an enormous span of control. The second reason that caused concern was that we, under that previous model, were not capitalizing on the potential of the reserve forces to contribute to Canada's defense needs. And the third reason was that regional operations that are conducted in support of civil authorities in Canada were largely an Army task, and under the previous model they had been allocated to functional commands. That is to say, they were shared between the Navy, the Air, and the Army elements. The new organization corrects this and divides Canada into 4 land force areas.
Canada's land forces are a combat-ready general-purpose total force army that includes both regular and reserve soldiers. Captain Joe Fourgère explains.
Well, the idea of the total force concept stems directly from changing roles of the Canadian forces and the current policy of physical restraint. What it is 2 separate components in the Army, regular force and reserve force, and they come together in times of emergency to form one operational integrated army. For instance, right now we have more troops outside Canada on peacekeeping than we've ever had since the Korean War. And if we weren't using the reserves, we just couldn't maintain that because the downsizing of the Army, we're just too small to do it alone. We need the reserves, and that's the concept of total force. Right now, all the training plans and training standards that are being produced at command level and at the centers of excellence are being produced in a format called total force. And that means that the reserve and the regular force use exactly the same training plan for the same course. Although the reservist may not take the whole course content because he may not have certain equipments at his unit, what he does take is done at the same standard and to the same standard as a regular force has to meet. So we're getting lots of reservists now in units that are very well trained, all kinds of experience that they never would have had before. Total force. What we do now is we'll write certain exercises that would initiate augmentation from the reserve force. We do this on purpose so that reserve force reacts to an augmentation order much the same way they would to deploy somewhere with a regular force unit. And in this fashion, they become proficient at augmentation and what's required. And this is practiced on major exercises at the collective training level, such as Exercise Western Challenge. That's run every year.
But I think it's important to underline the fact that you have reserve forces for only two reasons. And you have to test yourself in these times of very, very severely constrained resources. You have to test yourself severely on why you do everything. And the two reasons that you have reserve forces are, first of all, to augment the regular force to war establishment to do their task. That is to say, where reservists fill up one brigade. And secondly, to provide the basis for mobilization.
The Canadian Army has established combined units consisting of both regular and reserve personnel. One such unit is 18 Air Defence Regiment in Lethbridge, Alberta. Major Chris Kilford explains.
In Lethbridge, Alberta, you have 18 Air Defence Regiment. That's a regiment made up of a battery of Javelin missile systems. And what we've done in Lethbridge is we have integrated regular force or full-time soldiers with the part-time reserve to form one single unit that works together. Within the total force in Canada, you're finding that many of the courses that are currently for the regular force are being broken down into 2-week blocks so that a reservist can take some of his vacation time, if it's possible, and complete the same sorts of courses that the regular force get. But it's very difficult, and it takes a big commitment from a militia soldier when they join the unit. In the last year, with total force, course training standards have been upgraded. So every course that a militiaman goes on, almost every course, is the exact same as is the course that the regular force person takes. So we get a good quality of individual. I'll give you one example, the combat leader course. It is now the same for the regular force and the reserves. So at least training-wise, when a regular force meets his reserve counterpart, they know that they've had the same training background. We can never make up for the fact that the individuals are not parading all the time, whereas one group is. We just can't make up for that. But certainly on the training side we have, and that's important.
One of the major tasks assigned to Canada's Army today is that of peacekeeping. Land Force Western Area has been a major supplier of peacekeepers since its establishment. Two LFWA reservists describe their experiences in the former Yugoslavia.
There's sort of a tremendous sense of pride being there and trying to make a difference. At the same time, you have to, you almost feel sorry for them, but allowing yourself to do that obviously takes over what your reactions are going to be while doing your job. But just being Canadian and seeing the difference that we made in the 6 months we were there, it just gives you a tremendous sense of pride. Like the town we were in, there was 400 people when we moved in. When we left, there was like 3,000. You know? So you could just see a definite change in what the circumstances were from the time we got there to the time we left. It seems like everything we did was important. You know, every patrol counted. All the reconnaissance that we did was always, you know, accumulated into a certain task or something. Everything we did, every time we went out, it was important.
People in the military can understand, but I don't imagine the civilians will quite understand what I mean by that becomes your family. One of the biggest things that people will have trouble with is if they haven't been away from their family for that length of time to such a desolated area. It's just been destroyed. And family contact is tough to do because you've only got one phone. Most of the time that's broken down. And in a lot of places you're at, there is no phones. You've got, the only access you have to your family is through your letters. But you kind of bond together with your section. And it's, over 6 months you basically develop your own little family within your section.
Land Force Western Area was established as part of the total reorganization of Canada's Army. LFWA provides well-trained, combat-ready troops prepared to meet any task assigned to it and strives to continually improve its operational potential by putting the right amount of resources in the right hands at the right time, for the right reasons, and for the right purpose.
I'm confident now that the Army is well positioned to serve Canada's needs into the 21st century or the third millennium. We're in a position now where the great organizational changes that we've been working through are now behind us. And I see us going through a period of some slight adjustment, improving our processes, and creating greater efficiencies in certain areas. But the Army that you see today, the organizational model that you see before you today, in my view, will be serving Canada well for the first quarter of the next century.